So you've been working on that journey to meet your guides. Please make sure you're sharing how that process is going for you. If you have if you have had a hard time maybe connecting to your guides in this way, have no fear. That's why this next higher self meditation is here. I'm going to introduce you now to what I call the higher self meditation, or the higher self check-in. And not unlike the journey to meet your guides, I want to kind of give you the context and kind of the philosophy behind this meditation, and then we'll turn it over to a guided meditation that you can do on your own. Again, we're getting into the good stuff now, and this is where I start to kind of, like, as the guide, take my hands off the wheel and allow you your experience, allow you to move into that and to start to kind of feel into these experiences and have them for yourself. And hopefully over time too, you'll intuitively sort of adapt and maybe shift or change the meditation practices to match something that feels really resonant and works for you. But today we're going to talk about the higher self check-in. So if you're having a hard time, meditating and meeting with your guides per se, maybe that's just not quite clicking. What I want to do is guide you through this higher self meditation. And what it really does, it just allows us to connect to that safe and sacred divine space. I call it the soul force field meditation. So if you took the Awakening Soul Force course, you know that I call the soul force field meditation that process of grounding, connecting to divine earth, connecting to divine heaven, bringing that in, and that's creating kind of our safe and sacred energy bubble around us. So in the higher self guided meditation, we're going to create that safe and sacred bubble, and we're going to set the intention to connect to divine loving awareness and divine loving consciousness. And then what we do is we work through each of the chakra centers, and we just have a dialogue, more or less, with each chakra center. So you will notice that as we went through each of the chakras and we tuned into each one of the intuitive senses, we had done those little exercises. We did, how do you use your imagination? See the face of someone you love. Can you hear the voice of someone you love? What does it feel like to sit next to someone you don't like? We worked through all those things. And if you remember, at the end, the very last question was always that little prompt that took it to the next level, that maybe pushes us into the intuitive dimension of receiving information. Well, essentially, the higher self meditation is just a check-in that you can do for yourself as often as you'd want, that checks in with each center and walks you through that process one chakra at a time. So for me, this has become a really fantastic basic practice to kind of take inventory. And again, you can do it daily, you could do it weekly, you could do it monthly, but it's what feels so resonant about it for me and why it came about was, as I've gone along on my journey, you got to remember, I was a personal trainer, so I love exercises. I love exercises, I love training, I love practice. As an athlete, practice didn't bother me. I love doing the drills over and over and over again. So the way this kind of came together for me was I thought, okay, each one of these centers is connected to an intuitive sense. Each one of these centers is vital to our energetic and physical body and everything in between. Each one of these centers is storing information about myself and my experience and my relationship to my experience. So what if I kind of combined a chakra balancing meditation with that intuitive check-in? So the higher self meditation is literally going through each center, and what we do is we set that safe and sacred space with that soul force field meditation, which we've been introduced to it with that journey to meet your guides, because that's what we use to create the space. And then we start up here and just kind of work our way down the system, asking questions and doing a check-in. So one, there's chakra balancing and chakra awareness, which I think is helpful from an energetic perspective. And then from a mental, emotional, spiritual perspective, we go through and we check in with each center. And so we'll ask, is there anything I need to see today for my spiritual growth? And so for my spiritual growth is the context within which we are placing whatever this image that comes in how it comes in. So we're saying, for my spiritual growth, is there anything I need to see for my spiritual growth? I'm not asking, I didn't say, oh, is there anything I need to see for my financial well-being? Is there anything I need to see for my the health of my body? Those are different things, right? We're just asking generally spiritual growth. And the reason we start with spiritual growth and why I'm starting us here is because, as I mentioned earlier on, when we address things at the level of consciousness, we address things at the spiritual level, that really is the root of manifested physical reality. So if we get into the spiritual work, the energetic work that we are being called to, that's like going in there and getting to the root cause of whatever, symptoms might be popping up, or whatever state of dis-ease or illness or anxiety or frustration or whatever it is that we're experiencing. Getting into the spiritual root of it is what this work is all about. So is there anything I need to see for my spiritual growth? Then we get down into the throat chakra. Is there anything I need to hear for my spiritual growth? And a word might come in. Relax. Take it slow. Go now. It can be very simple like that. Or if, you have something like I do where you ask a question like that and pages of stuff wants to come out, that might happen. So then we get into the throat chakra. We ask that question. Is there anything I need to hear today for my spiritual growth? Then we get into the heart chakra. We drop it down. Is there anything I need to know? And again, we're tapping into, not only are we getting information, but we're tapping into that intuitive knowing. We're opening ourselves up to that awareness that just bubbles up from within inside of us. And it goes, yep, this is the answer. This is the aha moment. Then we drop it down. We get into the solar plexus. We ask if there's any action I need to take. Or is there any action that I can take that would propel me on my path of spiritual growth? So we're seeking guidance. We're chakra balancing. And we are working with our intuitive self all at the same time. And that's what I love about this practice. Maybe I love it because I just created it. But, it just it fires on a lot of cylinders for me. So that's why I'm sharing it. And then when we go from the solar plexus, we drop down into the sacral and we ask about feelings. Are there any feelings that want to be acknowledged today for my spiritual growth? Again, very important thing, because sometimes we can bypass our feelings, right? And there might be a feeling kind of percolating underneath the surface, or beneath all the activity and the chaos and sort of the buzzing of the day-to-day life. And then we get into this deep space of meditation, and we're working intuitively with ourselves, and we get down here, and then we feel a little sadness crop up. And it's important to acknowledge that and to be with that for a second. And we don't necessarily ask what we have to do with it, or to get rid of it. We just ask what wants to be seen, because so much of this work is really just about allowing things to be seen, becoming aware, making unconscious things conscious. And that can be really powerful, that alone, just asking, are there any feelings that want to come in that need to be acknowledged for my highest spiritual good? And then when we drop down into the root chakra being our center of like basic survival needs, the question I crafted just generally, is there anything I need to know about my health and wellness, the health of my physical body, for my highest good? And so this keeps us as a unified, holistic being. We're not, our physical body and our spiritual body are not separate and distinct. And our physical expression and our physical beingness is not separate from our growth and our development as a spiritual being. So I like to ask that question because the root is so connected to the body and physicality in the physical world. Well, is there anything about my physical body, the health and well-being of my physical body, that I need to know for my spiritual growth? And pay attention to what comes in. So that's kind of the philosophy behind the higher self meditation. Again, it kind of was born of all these practices that I had been working with and the things that I'm discovering along the way. And I'm like, how do I boil this down into something that's really manageable and practical for me? That doesn't require just some spontaneous, disorienting, spiritual insight, or, retreating to the mountains for an entire lifetime. Like, how do I distill all this stuff that I'm learning down into something that we can turn into a practice and exercise, something that we can do over and over to kind of bring awareness to ourselves. Well, this is what came out of that process. So clicking into the next section, you'll find just an audio file. Not unlike the journey to meet your guides, I'm going to really encourage you to just find a peaceful, quiet space. Put some headphones on if you can. Allow yourself to kind of be immersed in this experience and allow yourself to go inward. This journey is all about you, and I really want to allow you that space and freedom to do that journey on your own. And then be prepared to write down or journal about what comes up. You might have some things come in, and you might have just things come in naturally. You might feel your guides come in if you actually made a connection to a guide. So just be aware that that could be a thing. A guide might come in, you might feel it or sense their presence and their energy if you've been working with them, and they might help shepherd you through the process. They also might give you insight to maybe mix this up and do it in a different way. All that is okay and good, because we're at the point now where it's like we're trying to turn you loose a little bit to explore and experiment with this intuitive dimension of yourself and this higher dimension of loving awareness that is innate in you, and that connection that it has to divine creator and the spiritual guidance all around us, and to start to work with that, to become more aware. To me, the word enlightenment is just about making unconscious things conscious, making the dark part of ourselves illuminated. And when I think about dark parts of ourselves, I really just think about it like rooms in the house. So I don't mean it like, ooh, dark, scary, spooky. Of course, we associate dark with scary and spooky because it's unknown. We don't see it. But the way I see it is like if I walked into a house, the process of enlightenment is just turning the lights on. What's in this room? What's in this room? What's in this room? What's in this room? Ooh, this one's a little cluttered. That one's a little dirty. This one's got a lot of water in it. Whatever it is. And that's kind of what this process is too, is we're going into each one of these centers and we're just kind of asking the center to speak to us in a way, in its most natural language, in its most natural way. See, hear, know, action, feeling, and then really kind of connecting to our physical body. So that's the assignment moving forward. So I'm going to cut you loose to do the higher self guided meditation, and I'm going to encourage you to follow the prompts too connected to this video. Definitely be open to journaling and reflecting what comes in, because this is where we can develop a practice. And like over time, if you keep a journal 6 months from now, a year from now, this is such a great way to keep track of like your spiritual progress. It's a great way to track how your intuition is firing, what's working, how it communicates with you, how accurate it is, how often the guidance played out as guidance, and how often maybe you realize, oh, I think that was just a fear that was coming up, because that totally didn't happen. That's one of the ways we start to learn how to use and trust our intuition, is we have to use it. We have to get better at using it. We have to practice it. So I really encourage you to journal or keep track of kind of what comes in, the information, and how it pans out for you, because at this point in my life, I have stuff I think as far back as 2004. I have some journals from when I was like 16, but 2004, I really started to do the yellow legal pads. So I would have been 18 at the time, and I can go back, and it's like a time capsule, like back to the guidance that was coming through or whatever I was rambling about, and where those things merged. It's interesting to reflect on that. So I encourage that process too. It's very helpful in the long run to start to trust your intuition and start to discern between when your intuition is talking to you and maybe when it's, that anxious part of ourselves. So I can't wait to see what happens. Best of luck to you on this higher self-guided meditation journey. When you're ready, click into the next video, engage, and when you've done that and you've engaged with the prompts for this week, I'm really excited to take you into the next several phases of just practically applying this practice and learning how to ask practical questions of our guidance, and when we're in intuition, in an intuitive space, to bring through guidance and information that can help us. So this really does help set us up for where we're going for the next several weeks, as we learn how to practically apply and ask questions in this space to help bring about a deeper awareness. So when you're ready, click into the next video, and I will see you in the next week or so. Adios.